If you just raced after spending weeks and months to reach peak shape, then you know it's extremely difficult to maintain that shape all year long, if not impossible. On the other side of the spectrum, if you just don't do anything and spend your time watching Netflix, then you know what's going to happen. You will start to detrain. And you're probably watching this video because either it is off season and you feel like taking a break from heavy training, or your race has been cancelled because of a pandemic, for example. It comes down to the following optimization problem. How can I keep as much of my fitness level as possible with the minimum amount of work? In other words, how can I train at my quote-unquote sweet spot? To solve this problem, first we have to define what fitness means as a runner, how it differs from cycling, for example. Then we'll dive into what detraining means. If you were to stop training completely, how would it affect your fitness level? From there, I will give you the structure of a typical quote-unquote maintenance week that will help you keep hopefully over 97% of your peak shape, and that you can keep repeating over and over weeks after weeks until you start a new training block. What kind of fitness are we talking about? Fitness can be decomposed into two categories: the aerobic fitness or central fitness and the peripheral fitness. Aerobic fitness is basically your cardiovascular system. How good is your body to process oxygen, to convert it into energy? It means how fit you are in the broad sense of the term. That will be the engine of your car, if you will. Now, peripheral fitness will be the wheels of your car, how efficiently your legs will use the energy sent by your heart, how long they can sustain the energy requirement, which depends on things like mitochondria density, capillary number, and recruitment fall into that category of peripheral fitness. In other words, the muscle tissue and vascular structure that the heart is actually delivering oxygenated blood to and through. If you didn't get that last sentence, that's okay. In plain English, it means how good your legs are at running. Improving running fitness means you have to improve both departments. Which means, for example, you cannot just spend your time on the bike and expect to become the next marathon world record holder, nor can you just spend your time running and become the next Tour de France champion, for example, right? For example, Lance Armstrong, who has one of the biggest aerobic engines on the face of the planet, he recorded a VO2 max of a whooping 85, which is the level of a top tier elite runners. Finished his first marathon in New York 2006 in quote-unquote only 2 hours and 56. Yes, that is a very good time for us normal people, but for such a huge VO2 max, you would expect a sub 215 at least, and I believe he was dope. It's like if you were driving a Ferrari but you don't know how to drive above 100 km/h. The crossover between endurance sport is aerobic fitness, again the engine of your car. But at some point you need to be specific to your sport. What I'm trying to say is that if you can run, not injured or not locked down into your house, then running is the best way to maintain your fitness, or your running fitness. Duh. So what if you stopped running completely for a certain period of time? How would it affect your running fitness? This is not a trivial question, as the answer depends a lot on your current shape, peak shape versus out of shape. For the purpose of this exercise, let's assume that you've reached a peak shape, meaning that you have been training for months and that you're running pretty close to your personal best times. The table here shows the damage on your fitness as a function of days without running but with cross-training involving your legs, and with zero training. And this is, by the way, an extract from Jack Daniels' book, Daniel's Running Formula. As you can see, in both cases, with or without cross-training, within 5 days off, nothing really happens. It seems that you start to see a decline from the 6th day. Then you start to lose fitness at a linear rate until it plateaus eventually at around 70 days or so. Cross-training slows the detraining rate by about half. In other words, if you're in a couch potato mode, you will detrain twice faster than if you were doing some form of cross training. Eventually, the maximum medium long-ish term damage is about 20% loss in case of zero training and 10% if you manage to stay active. Those numbers are expressed as a percentage of your Vdot. See the link in the description if needed. So just to give you an example, an idea of what it means, let's say you've trained hard for a half marathon. You've reached a peak shape after 3 months of training and you managed to run a personal best time of 90 minutes, 1 hour 30 minutes. If you take 2 weeks of complete rest, then you would potentially slow down to a 92 minutes. And if you cross-train during those 2 weeks, you would slow down to just 91 minutes. Now, if you take 3 months off, with cross-training, your 90 minutes personal best would be downgraded to a 98 minutes. However, if you were to do nothing for 3 months, then you would slow down to a 1 hour 48 minutes. That is assuming that you don't gain any weight, because if you do, you would have to add an additional 3 seconds per kilometer to your pace for each kilogram you gain. So for example, if you take 3 months off and binge on Netflix, popcorn and beer and gain 5 kilos as a result, then your 1 hour 30 minutes personal best would become in 1 hour 53 minutes time. So yeah. So let's talk about the structure of a maintenance week in terms of running, of course. Now, the plan I'm going to share with you is the one I've been personally using since the beginning of the pandemic. And it's been working pretty well so far, in my case at least, as I was able to improve my 5K time. You might have heard the notion of muscle memory. Well, basically, once you've reached a new level of fitness, your body will remember it, and it will take much less effort to maintain that fitness than to get there in the first place. Now, how much effort is needed for maintenance is the next thing we're going to talk about. Maintaining fitness means maintaining both aerobic and peripheral fitness, which means, concretely speaking, that you need some combination of both volume and intensity. In general, I found that from the runners I coach and for myself, a volume cut between 20% to 50% if you're running 10 or less hours per week is a good range. Yeah, I know that's kind of wide, but hear me out. If you're on the lower side of the spectrum, then you would do a smaller cut. Or if you're on a higher volume, you can allow yourself a bigger cut. In my case, I was running about 10 hours per week, so about 120 kilometers. Since March 2020, I have been running about 80 kilometers or less per week, or about 6 hours. So that's about 30-40%-ish volume cut. Now, for the intensity, you can also cut part of it and skim it down to 1 hard interval session per week. By hard, I mean repetitions of between 10 seconds and 5 minutes of very hard and intense effort, with a total of about 15 to 20 minutes of cumulative hard efforts, which can be done in a single session or two. So why super short and intense instead of like tempo, you might ask? Well, for 2 reasons at least. First, a fitness decline starts with speed at maximum power. And second, as we age, speed and maximum power are also the first things we start to lose. So if you want to stay fit as long as possible as you age, it is crucial to keep a high intensity training. I often say that intensity is king. Intensity will keep you fit. I'm gonna oversimplify things here, but intensity work is the 20% of your training that makes 80% of your fitness. And so volume is the other 80% of your training that makes 20% of the fitness. Both are complementary though, remember that. So here is how I would structure a maintenance week. 1 high intensity run, 1 long run at least 90 minutes every other week, alternating with a short run at an easy pace, 45 to 60 minutes, and the rest easy runs to reach your targeted volume. Now, for the high intensity workout to work, you need to go hard enough to make it efficient. Efforts between 10 seconds and below 60 seconds need to be all out or close to, with longer rest. Then efforts between 1 minute and 5 minutes should be run between your 5K race pace to mile race pace with shorter rest. For example, you could do the following workout, or you could do like 5 times 1000 one week and the following week something like this. You can mix it up as you feel like. There is more than one way to skin a cat. If you follow this, you should be able to retain about 97% of your peak shape of your 5K to half marathon shape. If you look at Jack Daniel's Vdot table, you should only lose 1 or 2 points. In my case, since I was focused on the marathon training before, by shifting into those short and high intensity workouts, some of my athletes and myself included were able to run a personal record on the 5,000 meters. Okay, so that's it for today, guys. If you liked it, please give it a thumb up for the YouTube algorithm. That will help me out a lot. If you didn't like it, then please don't hit the dislike button. Talking about long runs before wrapping this up, here's a B-roll of a long run I did recently. Enjoy.